Right. Sorry about that. Had some broadcasting issues. But I'm here, Whale Fam. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're tuning in from. I'm here with Justin, and we're here for another episode of Project Showcase. We're featuring Somint. I'm here with Aziz and Farouk. How are you guys?
Very good. I'm
Again,
good.
we started talking and didn't realize it was not broadcasting, but whatever, it's one of those days. So Somint is a yet to be launched art marketplace on the Cardano chain, and really excited to hear more about it. So where are you guys at with the development process so far?
So currently we are developing our MVP, our demo, to, I guess, work out all the kinks of trying to make this as streamlined of a process for people, for creatives who want to come into the NFT art ecosystem. So as Farouk was mentioning before when we weren't recording, is that we want to make this process as simple as posting a tweet. So that is currently what we are working on.
And I noticed that one of the problems you're trying to solve is making this space more accessible for artists and easier. So how are you working on that aspect?
Yeah. So I guess on that aspect, like one of the things, as Aziz mentioned there, that we're trying to do is create an experience that makes it as easy as posting a tweet, like minting your work. But that's only kind of one aspect of it. The other side of it as well is kind of helping people realize that they can try in this space and they can be artists in this space. But this isn't, and the NFT space isn't necessarily a pot of gold that you can dip your hand into and you're guaranteed a return. It's a space that you need to bring something to as well. And that might be your community. It might be the type of work that you do. It might be just the relationship or your network of collectors that you might already have, and introducing them into this NFT space and letting them know that they can support your work in this way as well. So we're focused on letting artists know that they can do that work as well, and we're here to help them do that work or make that work a little bit easier through the content that we create, to just trying to expand the space for as many people to realize that they're welcome in this space and they can be a part of this space as well.
Yeah, something that we've noticed is that the current NFT market, although it is booming and there are people making a whole lot of money, there's no denying that, but it is very much a niche within a niche, and there are many artists who don't know about it yet, or even they know about it, but they don't truly understand what this technology, what this ecosystem is all about. And what we want to do is to try help point creatives or potential art enthusiasts into the right direction so that they can begin to learn about what this is and begin to then further use this tool as a means to do what it is that they want to do, whether that be that they want to collect art from their favorite artist, or that is that they want to create art and put it out there on a marketplace where more people will be able to access it.
So that's really awesome. So you mentioned that you want to help artists that don't necessarily have a network of, supporters already. So how are you working on building a community around that and building some kind of infrastructure to help artists that don't already have a network?
Yeah. So I guess our hope is really to help people learn how to actually create their own communities, and I think realizing what your community is as well. It's like, I think a lot of the times we have this idealized sense of, especially as artists, like that want to be discovered, or we want to be let into a room, or we want to become part of something that enables us to be greater in our eyes, or like that's what we kind of imagine as like success is, like getting into that room where you've got all the people who want to buy your work. But I think it's really the reverse. A lot of the times is you realize the community is already around you. It's the people who've been telling you to pursue your art, the people who've been kind of urging you, like, yeah, you should try that thing that you want to try, or try create that piece. Your community is also the people that you might already have on Instagram who like your work or whatever, or on Twitter or wherever it is that you share your work. Your community is those people who believe in you, and then it's kind of up to you to continue to focus on those people and then let them spread your work. And the more you kind of communicate with that community of people who already support. It's not you shouldn't focus too much on getting more and more and more. It's focus on what you have as well. So we want artists to realize that they already have a network of people there as well who want to support their work, who might not necessarily know that they can support their work, especially when it comes to digital art, because it wasn't really a thing. The only really real way that existed prior that I know of is buying someone's prints and supporting their work that way. And a lot of the ways I've been describing the NFT space to some of my artist friends as well is to see this space as basically an evolution of selling a print of your work. This is like selling prints, but like prints on steroids that have all of these amazing add-ons that that not only you, the artist, can benefit from, but the people who support your work can benefit from also. Which is amazing, I think, and it's something that's not really been seen in the art space so widely adoptable. It hasn't been widely adopted yet, but it's widely adoptable, and it's something that's unique to the NFT space. And I think on the question of community again, it's like we just want people to realize that yes, we'll help you try and help find more people, and like that'll happen organically as well through just the way that we plan on featuring people on the platform and giving people the opportunity to get seen by more people that they necessarily might do. But we also want people to realize that that isn't necessarily the be all and end all. The be all and end all really is focusing on your own community that you have at home or whatever it is, like wherever your home might be, where you're sharing your work, whether that's social media or in real life. Just focusing on letting those people around you know that they can support your work as well on the grand scheme of things, and then hopefully over time as they share your work and you continue to share your work, you develop yourself as an artist, and you still have to put in that work as an artist, starting off and like figuring out your grind. Like for example, with the Beeple piece that sold for 69 million, a lot of people are just seeing that as a blanket sale of a JPEG for 69 million or whatever it was, as opposed to seeing it as a piece of work that took 14 years to put together, every single day for 14 years as well with a day off, so it's one thing to like put in work on something where you do it Monday to Friday or whatever it is, or like 3 days a week. You work in a piece for 14 years straight, and that was the culmination. And it was just very fortunate that there was a space that enabled him to garner what he garnered in terms of payment for that piece of work that he made. So I've been telling a lot of people as well to not see that for the surface level, which is 69 million for a piece of art, but to see it as 69 million for 14 years of everyday work, towards something. Right. You're committed to something where you weren't necessarily looking for a return, or you didn't know what you were looking for in terms of return. It's focusing on developing your art and he obviously developed a mad community behind him over those 14 years. Like that's the work that needs to go in as well, NFTs just make things a little bit easier.
Yeah, just to add to that, like one of our taglines is where passion comes first, and in the situation of Beeple, like he obviously had a passion for what he was doing, and he kept working at it day in, day out, and his passion in the long run has seemed to pay off greatly. And I think that's the case for many creators around the world. Nobody may be around when you're grinding away in a dark room trying to figure out how to work something out on Illustrator or Blender or whatever medium you're using to create your art piece. But if you keep putting that passion in and keep driving forward, eventually you could maybe create a community around that, and that community would have passion towards what you are doing, and they'll be willing to support you. Now maybe they'll be willing to support you and pay 69 million for your piece of work, but also maybe they're willing to support you and all they can afford is 10 euro, 20 euro, or whatever it may be. But it's important to also realize that those people that are there at the beginning are part of your community, and fostering and nourishing that community is something that is important, and we want to shine a light on that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Beeple spent many, many years honing his craft, and I think people from the outside have no idea, that he wasn't always in the NFT space, and that, through that daily work and that dedication that he had, that's what brought people together. People took notice. I'm sure the first month or so, people might not have been paying as much attention, but people take notice when they're like, wow, this person's been making a new 3D art. Well, it wasn't always 3D art, but working on 3D art is like very painstaking. I don't know For those of you who don't use those programs, that is not easy work.
I'm a 3D artist myself. Like I know like the work that goes into making some of those pieces, and I'm like, I don't know how he's been doing it every single day for that long. Like, I mean, but it also goes to show when you put in time, it just becomes easy to you and it comes natural over time, and that's what happened there, I think.
Yeah, totally. So kind of going more into like, how are you building community? Do you plan on, creating a Discord for Somint users, or using some other platform where people can come together outside of Somint itself? Or is there going to be something built into Somint art for people to connect?
We're working on both sides of things. I think we're definitely gonna open up more social networks or community-centered networks for Somint users and enthusiasts, including things like Discord, of course, and Telegram and Twitter. We have the Twitter up and running, and Instagram as well. I think at the moment we're focused on executing how we're gonna land the birds that we have. And the ideas that we think will really kind of do what we want to do, which is open this up to masses, but also help artists realize their potential as well, and that they can try. So I think we're more focused on that side of things at the moment. With the community, it's surprising. Like I personally anyway, I've been quite. It's really enthusiastic, and it just energizes me seeing the amount of people who've shown like interest in what we're trying to do here. As Somint, and it's been kind of surprising as well, because we're just like two guys in Ireland, like just trying to I don't know, we're just doing what we're trying to do, and it's really, really nice to see that there actually is already a community forming around us of people who believe in what we're trying to do and who are willing to kind of. And so many people have offered time and offered like help and advice and given advice and stuff like that. It's really amazing to see, and it does encourage us to like get the ball rolling on some sort of community thing that we do. Maybe it's a Discord or something. I think if there's interest there for people who actually want something like that, I think we're happy to facilitate and create something like that for people to interact and talk NFTs and also like give us some advice before we kind of take this to the market in terms of like what would they like to see, and we're always open to those sort of suggestions from the community. Like, what would you like to see in an NFT, or what haven't you seen so far? What are the people you've seen in the spaces that are currently there, and what would you like to see done differently? And we're open to experimenting and trying all of those things out. And in terms of like in-house as well, like I guess, like I mentioned, we're just trying to figure out how we're going to land our key birds first, and then think about like a social element as well on Somint.
Yeah, at the moment we just don't want to rush the process and maybe begin a Discord where like just all sorts of conversations are happening, and we want to not structure the conversations, but we just want to make sure we do it right, and we don't want to just open up a Telegram that we're not able to help monitor or give our input in the best that we can. So we're just trying to figure out what is the best route for us to take that with at the moment. And as Farouk mentioned, we do have plans to do something with Somint in terms of a social aspect, but we will reveal that in the future.
Okay, cool. That makes sense too. I am all for. I used to work in advertising, and there's a lot of just get it done. Like, it didn't matter if it was done right, and then you had to do it over anyway. So it makes a lot of sense to take your time, make sure you're doing it right, get consensus before you.
I think we're very much, we've said this a few times, we're very much taking the Cardano approach to this, which is take your time with it. Like we're like, I mean, there's loads of marketplaces out there already, and like we're not really focused too much on what everyone else is doing or how quick everyone else is doing it. We just want to make sure that we do this right for the people that are behind us, that are supporting us and are there, and make sure that we get, like you said, like I worked in advertising as well I still kind of do a little bit, but that sense of like create instead of like refine and make sure that it makes sense and make sure it communicates or whatever else. And it's mad because when you do put the time with anything in life, it usually comes out better, and usually they're happier with that result, and there's a lot less chance of something going wrong. And we're open to things going wrong as well. If we fail, we fail, but like we're just going to try our best to kind of make sure things work.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, the way that I found your project was mostly because, I was trying to tell my other artist friends about this whole world of NFTs and how great it is. And like at least 3 people were like, it's killing the environment. And I was like, I was like, is there a project out there that's really thinking about this? And I found yours. So I was curious if you could explain like I'm 5, if you know, like how is the Cardano chain more eco-conscious, eco-friendly than minting on the Ethereum chain?
So I'll interject there. So right now there are 2 popular consensus mechanisms when it comes to blockchain. That's not to say that there isn't other ones, but the main one is proof of work, which is the one that Bitcoin and Ethereum use. And that is a consensus mechanism that requires a lot of energy and computer power to create the blocks and verify the transactions on the blockchain. Now, with Cardano, it uses a consensus mechanism to verify the blocks on the blockchain called proof of stake. And that is a consensus mechanism that is a lot less energy intensive. It doesn't require specially built computers that will be running 24 hours a day to verify the blocks on the blockchain. There's a thing called a Raspberry Pi, which you can run a Cardano stake pool from, which a stake pool verifies the blocks, helps verify the blocks on the blockchain. I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible for any non-tech people out there, because that's something that we know very much, that like there are some creatives in this space that the technology aspect of this goes over their head. So Cardano uses a consensus mechanism that doesn't require as much energy resources, and the computational power, or even the computers themselves, they are not like that high tech that it requires. That the computers are not too high tech that they create waste in the long run. Because right now with Bitcoin, for example, the computers that are used to verify the blocks, they're specifically built to mine cryptocurrency. And if there is more and more people mining cryptocurrency, these computers need to be upgraded, need to be improved, and those old computers kind of just become waste. So that in itself is an issue on its own, let alone in terms of just the energy consumption of these. So that is why we went with that is one of the reasons anyways that we went with the Cardano blockchain, because of the proof of stake mechanism that it uses. And the interesting thing about proof of stake is that although Ethereum is, I think right now it should still be the number 2 blockchain in the world, it is also moving to the proof of stake mechanism with Ethereum 2.0. So it's interesting that Cardano is a blockchain that is already using this mechanism, and Ethereum, the number 2, has goals to move to the same consensus mechanism for the same reasons, because it's not as sustainable as proof of stake.
And just to actually simplify even further on what Aziz just said there, is like basically think of proof of work as like loads and loads of powerful computers and powerful computers that need to come together basically to solve these equations, and then you get your Bitcoin, for example, or Ethereum. And then proof of work is essentially the same amount of work being done by something as small as like that size. If you don't know what a Raspberry Pi is, that size,
I've seen them,
and that does an equal amount of work, and so it doesn't need as much power. So basically that's basically it. Like, it just doesn't need as much power to get itself from A to Z. So, and like Aziz said as well, like that's one of the key things that brought us to Cardano, because we were very conscious personally about the environment and our impact and whatever we do. But also, like, because we had a conversation with another group of people as well, and we said that like we're not only focused on the proof of work aspect of things. Like, that's just a helpful starting point to being a bit more environmentally conscious as an organization. And that's our view to the fact that we're using proof of work,
proof of stake,
proof of stake blockchain. But like, again, it's just the starting point, and I'm sure there's going to be more obstacles that come along in the future, and we're focused on also addressing those things as they come along, whereas people let us know as well, because you don't know everything. So
yeah, I know that Justin had a related question in terms of scarcity and using proof of stake.
I
Do you
did.
want to pose that? Yeah.
So I wanted to know how you were going to tackle and I don't know whether you've. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right, it's not showing up on my end. I wanted to know how you're, with the lack of smart contracts on Cardano at the moment, how you're going to go about proving scarcity.
Well, we're not.
Prove it.
We're not going to go ahead with anything until we have smart contracts. Like I said.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, just that's pretty much it. Like we said, like we're not in a rush to get this going, right? And smart contracts are around the corner. So Cardano is up. Yeah.
I'll add to that as well. So we don't plan to launch our marketplace until smart contracts are ready to go on the Cardano blockchain. But with that said, there are ways that you can prove scarcity on the Cardano blockchain, and it's already being done. I don't know if you guys have seen Space Buds, for example. It's an NFT collectible on the Cardano blockchain, and using it's one of the first collectibles on the Cardano blockchain. And using metadata and the policy IDs, you're able to see that these are, this is a scarce, non-fungible token. So now, forgive me if I butcher this. I am not the tech guy, but basically, how I've understood how it works is that you get a certain amount of time, like a time slot, to mint the tokens that you want to create. And those tokens are minted in that time slot, and it's given like a hash, a code. And if you wanted to verify that these were those tokens from that time slot, specifically assigned to a certain time and space, you would be able to verify it based on it having that code attached to it. So it is possible, if you wanted to create an NFT on the Cardano blockchain right now and mint it and ensure that, okay, this is the one of one, this is the verified one. But right now, just the issue with smart contracts in terms of doing certain transactions and stuff like that, because of that, we do not want to launch our marketplace until those things are ready to go.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, to add to that again, is because that exists at the moment, but those things are amazing for enthusiasts, and those people who are willing to kind of dive a little bit deeper to understanding those things. And like we are focused on like working with artists like that and creators like that. But our main focus really, and to be honest, our biggest focus is the masses and like the regular person who doesn't want to understand those things as well, and making sure that they can actually enjoy this space and utilize this space as well. So like until those things are like Aziz said there, like are ready to go, and we can make that process of understanding scarcity as well, making sure that that's a simple process for people as well.
Like I have an idea of it because I spend a lot of time
doing research
about cryptocurrency and stuff like that. But there are, the creative that maybe is very much focused on their art, and they don't have time to be doing research about all these different cryptocurrencies and understanding how to look up a transaction and check the policy ID and the transaction ID. Like we want to a certain extent obscure that from people who don't want to see that, because the reality is like not everybody's going to want to look at all that stuff, and we don't want to make it complicated for people, so complicated so that they turn away from it. Because even look at cryptocurrency as a whole, there are a lot of people who aren't interested in this space simply because they don't understand it, or it's very complicated for them to, it's scary, and it's very complicated for them to understand it. So what we want to do is create something that is easily understood, and we want to wait until smart contracts are ready to go on the Cardano blockchain to do that. And also another thing to add, one of the amazing things about smart contracts and blockchain technology is this whole thing of like, you could have an NFT. I sell my art piece to you, Heather, and maybe you go to sell it on to Justin, and I'm able to get 5% from every resale of my art piece. Now, as it stands right now, without smart contracts, it's difficult to do that. But when smart contracts come along, it is easier to do that, and it is easy to do that. And that is why right now we can see that, the Ethereum blockchain is booming with that stuff, because they have smart contracts. So we're taking the slow and steady route and just waiting for Cardano to be ready to go ahead with that.
Yeah, so obviously, ease of use is one of the key aims that you're aiming for. What else do you think Somint is going to have an offer to people that will separate themselves from what else is already offered by other platforms?
I think Farouk kind of mentioned it earlier on, but I think us coming from the perspective as we are creators who have to deal with these powers that be, these financial systems that, you know, in a sense they hold artists back, and we're hoping our passion in that sense is one of the things that will attract people to us. You know, there's some of these other platforms, you know, I don't know all these guys' backgrounds, but maybe they don't know what it's like to be in our shoes, to dealing with these things when you're trying to manage your talent or make money off your talent and ensure that you get paid. So knowing that we come from those backgrounds and knowing what it's like to deal with these things, we're putting those pain points that we have to deal with, we're putting them into our project here. So that is one thing that we are very much focused on. Another thing is we want to, maybe Farouk can add to this, but we also want to bring more collectors into the ecosystem, because one thing is that right now when someone says, oh, I'm an art collector, there's this kind of like preconceived notion of what an art collector is, and maybe it's like, you know, a really bourgeois person who collects art and goes to France every weekend kind of thing. Whereas, you know, Farouk was mentioned earlier on, like your tribe can be your art collector. And when I say your tribe, that could be my friend who's willing to buy my print and support me. That's somebody who's an art collector, but they don't even realize yet that they are also art collectors. And we want to show more people that you can be an art collector and you can support the arts. Farouk, I don't know if you want to add anything to that there.
Yeah, I think like, definitely on the collector side of things, we're obviously, I'm personally, obviously, like I'm an artist myself, and I work freelance as well. So like I understand a lot of the pain points of trying to be an artist in this world. So like that's one of the things I guess that we bring to the table, because from the other people that we've seen who are starting out these days, a lot of them artists are like they're not coming from that angle, and I think what it's resulting is like basically the same ideologies that have held artists back from what we're considering to be art 2.0, which is basically everything from the Renaissance till now. Which is a way overdue update period. And like for us, we're seeing a lot of those ideologies of like how artists are managed and how artists are overly curated in a way in some spaces, not everywhere, but like overly curated, and there's this sort of thing of like you need to fit a bracket before you're allowed to be an artist, or you need to be whatever, and shit like sorry for swearing, or I don't know if I'm allowed.
Oh, you can. It's totally fine.
But like
it's
basically,
fine.
yeah, shit like that, like where like there's this hierarchy of who's allowed into the art world and who's not, and this feeling the need to be discovered as well. Like a lot of that stuff still exists in the current NFT art marketplace, and it's not something that really gels very well with me personally and us as Somint as a whole. And something that we're trying to eradicate basically, or like get people to like realize you don't need that in your life. You don't need that stress, or you don't need that extra weight of like someone telling you whether or not you can be an artist, you can be a collector. So that's something that we're focused on making sure that we get rid of, that mentality, as well as obviously making things easier for artists in the States, and like in terms of minting. We're also focused on like actually, and we talked about it earlier a little bit, like that community aspect of things, and like realizing what your community is and like what your community can be. Your community doesn't need to be always necessarily be this fine thing. Maybe it needs to be for some people, but for a lot of people it doesn't need to be. I think realizing who's around you and who's there as well is like something that we want to push people to realize, that you have what it takes, and you're already doing it a lot of times. Like you just don't realize it yet, and you maybe just need to be told. And we want to try and tell people somehow that they can be artists as well, and they can try. And same with collecting as well. It's something we kind of actually wanted to talk to you guys a bit about as well, like because Aziz was letting me know that you guys collect some art as well as a community, and like sort of because we want people to understand as well, and we're planning on doing some focus group stuff with people to understand like the collectors aspect, the current collectors aspect, viewpoint, and like how they approach it and why they buy things and why they're interested, etc. Like that.
I feel like Justin would be better equipped to answer that question in terms of like, you know, what we're collecting and like how value is created with a specific NFT, or like, you know, as you mentioned scarcity before, you know, there's so much more to it than just scarcity. So yeah, what would you say to that, Justin?
I think everyone has their own requirements for what they are collecting, you know, whether that be purely from aesthetics or whether that be for resale value, how it's stored. I mean, there's no, just like there's no one artist and way to do art, there's no one way to do collection either. So,
I see a question here.
Yeah.
Who will be odd? Go ahead,
yeah, who will be? Yeah, they're asking. This was from our Discord, from Domino. They asked, who will be auditing Somint's smart contracts for bugs and integrity?
Okay, so I'm not the tech guy, but I'll answer this the best that I can. So with Cardano, the way that it's built, there's a thing called Plutus, and Plutus is like their smart contract language. Smart contract language. And within the Plutus playground, which is something that exists right now, you are able to create smart contracts and test out how those smart contracts will work or react in the real world. So it's kind of a testing ground before you bring your smart contracts to the real world, to mainnet, so you can ensure that, you know, it will work how you intend for it to work before you launch it, so that there isn't an issue of bugs or whatever it may be. And just to even add on that thing about bugs, so like one thing with the Ethereum blockchain at the moment is that the way NFTs are created, it's like there's a smart contract and then the NFT is created, whereas on the Cardano blockchain, NFTs are treated as native assets. So one way that it has been described to me is that like they are first-class citizens with ADA. So like all the benefits that ADA has on the Cardano blockchain, which is the primary token of the Cardano blockchain, the NFTs will be treated in the same manner. So it prevents the issues of bugs coming up. Whereas in the case of Ethereum, when NFTs are created and some smart contracts are involved, if the smart contract isn't audited properly, there can be issues that come along, because people can create smart contracts in like different ways and code them differently, and that's part of why these issues of like hacks and stuff come along, because, you know, they're not audited properly. Now again, I'm not the tech guy, I'm not a developer, but I'm trying to explain that the best I can from my knowledge.
Yeah, I'm an artist too, so, you know, I'm learning a lot in this conversation. I have like very superficial understanding of like how the technology works. So
and I think to add to that as well, like I think my understanding as well is that Cardano is taking the approach of almost a plug and play approach, where they're trying and testing out loads of different potential errors. They're seeking out those errors and bugs and things. And they're creating Plutus in a way that it becomes almost a plug and play smart. Like obviously there's always the opportunity for mistakes and bugs pop up here and there, but they're creating it in a way that to try and avoid those as much as possible, and creating Plutus in a way that it is kind of plug and play, where you can just pick different parts that you need for your smart contract, and then put them together essentially kind of like a jigsaw puzzle until you get the smart contract you're happy with. And then, but it's all based off I don't want to go in too deep just in case I say something wrong, but I as far as I know anyway, that's the approach that they're taking.
So backtracking a little bit, you were talking about this idea that, you know, things might be a little bit over curated in the space, or that like artists are kind of being made to like prove that they're good enough to be like on certain platforms. So I was curious if Somint was going to have, you know, some kind of application process, maybe similar to Known Origin or Super Rare, or if it was going to be more open, more like OpenSea or Rarible.
I would say that we are going to be more open now. At the very early stages, we may have to, like, you know, roll it out slowly with, like, you know, the people who are who have put passion first and maybe have signed up first, but we aim to have it open to the masses. We want to open the NFT art space to everybody. We don't want it to be a case, as I've seen on Twitter, that people are pandering to other people trying to get an invite, or they've applied to a NFT art platform for the 6th time hoping that they get in so that they mint their artwork. Because when there's things like that in place, it can make people question whether or not they're worthy to be an artist. And the reality is that we are all artists, we are all creatives. And I think when those walls are put there, it just creates these barriers of entry into something that all of us should have access to. We're currently living through a pandemic where we are being withheld from the arts. We can't go to concerts, museums, well, depending on where you are in the world, concerts, museums, whatever it may be. And people are craving this creative outlet, these creative experiences. And I think more so than ever before, people are beginning to realize the importance of the arts. And we've seen across the world how some governments have failed the art scenes in their countries. And with with blockchain technology, we see this as an opportunity to really show people how beneficial arts are to people, but also create a system where artists can gain good revenue for the work that they do if they put the passion first. So I feel like I rambled on a bit there. But
I totally agree with you. I think if we have so many platforms that have this barrier to entry and only a handful of platforms that are open, then like all these open platforms become super oversaturated, and then people kind of get lost in the shuffle, and then it can be really demoralizing if you can't get into the platforms that have the, let's say, like the popularity that people tend to go to those platforms to find quality artists, as if there aren't quality artists on these open platforms.
I think that point that you just made there, like when it comes to quality arts and like a place where people go, like I think the mistake that gets made a lot of the times with, or I don't know, in my view anyway, with those spaces, is they do become, sometimes they can become over curated, and it can be too deterministic of what is art or what is allowed to be art. And I don't think that sort of power should be given to any one organization, or one person or whatever, or one group of curators. I think it's something that needs to be a little bit more lax and a little bit more free, in order to allow people to have the opportunity to flourish in the first place. We have a few. Sorry, go on.
No. Finish what you were saying.
No, I was just gonna say we have a few approaches that we're gonna take, and we can't speak on it too much in detail, but like we have a few ways of addressing those things around saturation and over curation and curation as a whole. And we have like approaches and ways that we're planning on approaching those things. Because the other thing we don't want to do is we don't want a scenario where things feel oversaturated as well, or like where it is too hard for the little guy to make it, or whatever. So we're working on creating a structure that hopefully maybe doesn't eliminate that completely at the start, but certainly eases that, or makes that feeling a little bit less jarring.
I call it a hybrid, a bridge between the two of things, because I think to a certain extent you do need art curation. And Farouk curates art in itself, so you do need some art curation, but then also that art curation should have come at the expense that it stops people completely from being able to be artists in the space.
Right. Yeah. Or else, this space, what's been cool is it's kind of leveled the playing field, where people who weren't able to make a decent living off of their art, like now they can. And I think that if we have too many spaces that are over curating, then it just becomes just like the regular art world that, was very extremely hard to get into unless you know somebody in that space, who like is a curator at an actual gallery. And you know, we all know how inaccessible that world can be to most artists.
Yeah. Like imagine a world where you like growing up as a 12-year-old or whatever, wherever you are in the world, you're like, I want to be an artist, you know, and you start focusing on creating your art. You're going through school and you're doing your thing, you're making art, you're having fun, whatever. And then you get to college, or you decide you want to go to art college, and then you hit this roadblock with your parents maybe, or with your family. You're like, oh, is that realistic? Like, you're gonna be able to pay your rent and stuff? Can you pay your bills? And then family's telling you this, your friend telling you that. But like, the passion is there, it's the arts, it's creativity. And this is my own personal experience with it, like, you know, as well, where I found it hard to convince my parents that the creative art was what was right for me, and you know, and stuff like that. I mean, like, I'm sure there's going to be loads of millionaires off Somint or whatever, and there's going to be loads of people who can sell their works for whatever amount of money they seek to sell it for, and there's people, their community. But we also want people to realize that isn't necessary. Like, your idea of success is your idea of success, you know. You don't necessarily need to like think you're going to be Beeple straight out of the gate selling something for 69 million, you know. And like, not putting yourself under that sort of pressure as well is important, and realizing that maybe this is just a space you go into to pay your rent. You know, you can pop an NFT. There's so many artists that I'm seeing right now who are just putting up NFTs and getting their month's rent paid, you know, and they're chilling off that. Or like people who are getting 2 months rent paid off one piece of work. And like, that's the sort of community that we want people to create, like, with themselves. Or like, and that's the focus really is. It's not necessarily everyone wants to be a millionaire, or like everyone has to be a millionaire, or gazelle, or whatever. Like, you know, you don't have to set your standards like way too ridiculously high. Set realistic goals, and this space will allow you to create that if you are willing to focus your time on creating your community instead of focusing on the technical stuff, like, how do I create an NFT in the first place? Am I going to get accepted by so-and-so marketplace, et cetera, et cetera? And like, that's our job, is to kind of ease and liaise with that stuff, with like making sure it's easy for you to mint your work, making sure you know where to look for information on how to make a better community, how to connect with my community a little bit better, or how to like start a community or whatever, you know. And we're hoping to kind of bring people along that journey, because this is a lot of stuff as well that we're figuring out as well, and we're getting this knowledge ourselves. And like, Aziz and I are both shares as individuals. We like share. He like introduced me to this space, and like, I've introduced other people as a result, and like, that's the snowball effect that we want to have with people, is like sharing the knowledge that we have as personally as creatives and artists, you know, because we are going through that exact same process that a lot of people are trying to go through, and we want to share everything that we learn along the way through Somint as well, you know, as an avenue of getting people to create more and realize that this is a space that being an artist is a thing that you can do, you know, and you can do without needing some higher power telling you that you're worthy of being an artist, you know, or you're not worthy, etc.
Yeah, I think bringing that democratization to art is really important for building that social side of things, which the other part that I was going to ask, I mean, obviously that side of things is important, but purchasing the art as well, you want to make sure that what you buy today is going to be there for tomorrow. So have you put thought into how the images or art is going to be stored as you're creating this NFTs on Somint?
Yeah, we've begun looking at anyways, like decentralized, I guess, image storing platforms. Now, I'm not the tech guy. I don't want to go and butcher it, and my developer comes back to me and he's like, Aziz, you said the completely wrong thing. But like, there are systems that we're looking at that will ensure that these images will, if it's an image-based thing, that it will always be available to somebody. Because I have seen situations where like NFTs have been minted before, and then people come back to them later, and like the image is gone, and all these things that are things that this is why we are taking the slow and steady route, because we want to get these things right so that somebody doesn't buy an NFT today and then 2 weeks later they go to their friend, here, look at the NFT that I bought, and then they log in or whatever it may be and the NFT isn't there. So we are definitely looking at those systems.
Yeah, and obviously you've picked Cardano for the reasons you've already mentioned before. What do you think with the increase of blockchains that are offering NFTs? Do you think that leads to a greater choice for people or greater fragmentation?
I would say one thing with me and like I guess blockchains and like you see this maximalism and stuff like that, and I think currently we live in a world. If you just look at currencies in general, there are all sorts of different currencies in terms of euros, yen, dollars, and yes, there are ones more dominant than others. But I think that it will get to a stage where hopefully there will be more interoperability with these blockchains. Now, there will be some that are a whole lot more, I guess, dominant than others, I think. But I do think that it will get to a point where, people will just, kind of flow, what's the word? They will navigate themselves towards the ones that I guess best suit them and align with what they want to do. And I think in the sense that kind of brings it back to like your community. Maybe your community is one that is very eco-conscious and they don't want to be on Ethereum for that reason, while they are still using the proof of work mechanism. So maybe your community is one that you want to bring to the Cardano blockchain and they'll come there. And yes, that could cause fragmentation, but I hope as things go on down the line in terms of the development of blockchain technology, when more interoperability and connection between these blockchains occurs, I think that will help alleviate that. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah,
I think as well, just to add to that, I think time will also do its thing with this space. I think that whole idea of maximalism is something that's like people are very bullish on at the moment in the space, and with picking sides, it's either or as opposed to and. Like we live in a world where we can have ands, and everything doesn't have to be one way or the other. And I think time will do its thing in the sense of Cardano is a space or an ecosystem that's developing itself to be open to other blockchains and to be cross-connected eventually, and that's the plan and hope for Cardano. Like being in the Cardano ecosystem is like, it's that feeling you get, when you're younger and like you're in a shop with your friend or something, and they want to buy something and you want to buy that thing too, but then they get it first, and they get that sweet or whatever it is, but then you get something else, and that thing that you got is better, but they don't know it yet, and they're over the moon with that sweet that they got. That you got the whole bag. You're chilling, and you're just like, you have your fun with your little lollipop. I'm gonna go enjoy my massive bag of jellies at home when I get home. That's the feeling I get when I'm in the car, like when I join the Cardano ecosystem. It's that feeling of like everyone is bullish on this one thing that's like doing amazing things for them. I'm sure it is, and I'm sure it's doing great things. It is doing amazing things, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna be the greatest thing. Ethereum is very fortunate that it had the first mover advantage in this space. They took a very bullish approach. Move fast, break everything, figure it out along the way. Cardano took the opposite approach. Take your time, make sure everything makes sense. We might not be the most sexy at the start or whatever, but we're gonna be the party that everyone wants to be at eventually. And that's the mentality that Cardano takes in my eyes or in my view. And that's how I feel when I think about Cardano and the ecosystem and the way I think about the way they're approaching things. So in terms of variety of different blockchains and people having too many options, I think people will always move towards what makes the most sense. And for me right now, because I've done my research and I've done my readings, Cardano is the one that makes the most sense. I'm sure other ones will pop up, but if you do your research on Cardano, I think you're gonna find it hard to disagree. But do your own research on it. Not you specifically, but everyone.
I think also to add to what you're saying there is that I'm not here to bash the Ethereum blockchain, because the thing is with Ethereum and what is going on with the NFT art space is that we are seeing how this space can work and how it can be done, or things that could be done better. And even not to say that Cardano is going to solve every single issue. There's other blockchains that are out there that are doing it in different ways, and with that, we're all able to learn from each other. That's how we move forward. Is that you see someone doing something over there, maybe they do it in a different way, and you learn from that. Then that's something that I think that's a good thing to have. It's not a bad thing to have that there are other blockchains out there maybe doing it differently or doing something better or whatever, because it will just help move the whole ecosystem forward. You know, if what's the rising tides? Like if one boat goes higher, all the boats go higher. I don't know. I don't know what the quote is, but yeah, I think it's important that there is a variety of blockchains out there. Yes, it can cause fragmentation, but your community will go where your community supports you. So I guess that's the importance of developing your community as well and communicating with your community.
Completely agree on the community side, and it looks like in ours we've got quite a few Cardano fans as well. In our stream text, we've got people that are going along on Cardano and appreciating the open-minded approach you've taken with Somint so far.
Yeah. That all being said, the question on all our minds is, have you got a launch date yet, or a month in mind?
Not yet.
So I would say at the moment we don't have a launch date in mind, but I would say at the moment it's looking like Q4.
Okay. And where's the best place for the whale community or anyone else who wants to learn more to get more information and stay, on top of this project so that they're there as soon as it launches?
So our website is there, so somint.art, SOMINT.ART, or you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at SomintArt.
Cool. And as well, I guess we might as well just add in this line just in case there are people out there watching who would be interested. If anyone is interested in like a Discord channel or a Telegram or has interesting approaches to management of those spaces as well, or has any interest in managing those spaces as well, or working with us to manage those spaces, feel free to reach out and let us know either through our website or through Twitter or Instagram.
Awesome. And I have one more art nerd question for you. Could you talk about is there a meaning behind the Somint logo?
Yeah, there is. That's another bird that we're not ready to let fly just yet. I think, but it does have a deeper.
Okay.
It does. I'm glad that you asked, because people are asking as well. It's a meaningful. I think it's something that's meaningful and true to our origin as Somint. It's something that speaks to us and also speaks to the arts, and also speaks to the Black arts, which is something that's important to us both as well, and to Black artists. So we will let that fly when the time is right. Maybe at launch, or maybe further down the line. But I think we'll tell that story when it makes the most sense.
Okay, cool. I can't wait to hear it. And
Cool.
yeah, Justin, do you have any more questions?
No, I'm just intrigued and wondering now about this secretive logo.
Yeah, now I want to know even more.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to like and subscribe now.
Please and thank you.
Yeah, that's what we like to hear.
Well, thank you so much, Aziz and Farouk, for your time. I learned a lot in our conversation, and I really can't wait to see how this unfolds. I think it's a great project, and everybody follow Somint on Twitter. We've placed their links in the stream text at somint.art, and everybody enjoy your day. Keep your ears to the ground for Q4 launch of Somint Art, and we'll see you next time. Have a magical day. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.